Okay, so in this retake of this video, what we're going to focus on is doling down our characters, our action figures, and all that's really going to do is just going to take these glossy figures and it's going to dull it down because skin, you know, except for like highlights, is not shiny, whereas these, everything has shine on them. So I'm gonna walk y'all through the process that I use, and I'll kind of do a before and after kind of comparison. In the other video, the one where my focus was completely messed up, I painted some sand people and a whole bunch of like harder to find figures, so that kind of sucks. Anywho, I'll adapt. I'm just going to run through these figures that I picked up for my Jabba scene that I'm working on. And I'll put a description of everything that I use down below. So off the bat, I use Vallejo's matte varnish. Okay. I find like the matte varnish, I can spray it on there, and it does its job. It makes everything dull, which is what I want. However, this, depending on how rough you are with these figures, it will come off. And the reason why it comes off is because all these figures, they have some oil and stuff on them, and I'm not going to wash every figure so I get the best adhesion. If you want to, by all means, go for it, and then it will probably last longer. So if I notice it's wearing off, then I'll just go back through and I'll touch it up. This stuff goes on kind of whitish, and then it fades away to nothing after that. So I'll run through these two figures. I'll give you before and after, or what they look like, and like the spots that I usually spray. All right, so let's get into it. All right, so like I said, we're going to be using this matte varnish to spray on these figures to dull them down. Yeah, so basically everything I paint with an airbrush. I love the airbrush. I think it's a great investment to have. So if you're on the fence about getting an airbrush, I highly recommend getting one. That's how I painted my Razor Crest. That's how I paint all my figures. That's how I paint my dios. That's how I'm going to paint these helmets. You can just get so much. I think the coverage is better. You don't get, streak marks, whatnot. Again, that's personal preference. It's mine. So anyway, I have a master airbrush. I got it off of Amazon. So I'll find it. I'll put a link in the description below if you guys want to pick one up. It's pretty cheap. So anyway, we're going to be using this matte varnish, and we're going to be using it straight. So it just globs into our cup. And so basically what I'm looking to do is I want to dull everything that's meant to be dull. Armor, meant to be shiny. So I'm going to keep that shiny. Skin, I'm going to cover up over that skin. I'm going to dull it down. Leather, that's up to you. I know leather is kind of shiny and whatnot. I'm going to dull mine down. Same with clothes, cloth, stuff like that. Now, face, I'm going to dull down the face, but if you have this figure, you can see it, the eye glistens, so there is some shine that's in the eye. Same with the mouth. Mouth is pretty shiny as well. Usually, like on my Jabba, I know that I sprayed the inside and I went back through with a clear coat, but I also kind of did a wash on them as well. So anywho, that's kind of what I look for. Y'all can do whatever it is that you want to do. Now, the reason why these videos I'm doing now I'm kind of jumping way into it is because if y'all want to go through and start doing this stuff, so once I start covering the photography side of everything, then you already have your images or your characters prepped. So let me go ahead and close his mouth. And yeah, also I'll take my paintbrush, my airbrush, okay? And literally all I'm gonna do is I will go through and I'm just gonna start airbrushing this on. Now, like I said, if you put it on thick, what will end up happening is it will turn white, and then eventually it will fade away. I'm not really worried about if I kind of glob it on there, because honestly, I want it to be on there. And I use the shiny portion of it just to kind of double check my work before it dries. Yeah, so I'm just going to go through this character and spray as much of them as I need to kind of dull them down. Now, if you want this to dry a little bit quicker with your airbrush, you can just let air out, and the air is gonna dry this varnish, so you can kind of check your progress, see if you need to add another coat. The other good thing about using the airbrush is, even though, you know, I'm on here, I'm spraying as much of these areas as I can. I'm not being too worried about the armor, because there is dull spots in the armor itself. So I just pretty much prep them as much as I can. Now, in this undercoating and in his legs, this is where we're going to really see this dulling spray and what it's doing and how it's dulling down everything. Now, there is cracks and crevices and stuff like that, so just make sure you hit it at different angles. I haven't had any problems with using this and me applying it too thick and it doing anything adverse. This is water-based, so if you do this and you're like, I don't really like that, then dunk it in some warm soapy water, give it a little scrub, and your dulling spray will be gone, which is also nice, because some people don't want to mess with their characters too much. But my philosophy has always been, if you're going to do something, might as well go all in. So it seems to be working so far. Okay, I think we're going to get some good results on this back as well. This back is really shiny. Yeah. There you go. I mean, that's pretty much it. In a perfect world, I probably would have did some type of weathering on this before I did this. Then that way this varnish helps seal in, you know, the weathering and stuff. That's what I did on the dewback. I went through, I did the same process. I also did some black weathering on like the skin, because I thought, you know, that one was way too shiny for my liking. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. I will let him dry. So here, we'll try to get, I'll kind of see how this looks on the actual video whether or not we see much of a difference. But kind of just from where I'm sitting, like off the bat, his face isn't as shiny as that one. Definitely the legs and the sandals aren't as shiny. So I think that's pretty good. So yeah. So I mean, as y'all can see, so when I have this side light, which is going to emphasize shadows and highlights, it's going to catch highlights and start reflecting them back towards the camera. You can see a big difference. Doing a quick voiceover real quick, I just wanted to take these photos side by side. The one on your left, untouched. The one on the right is the one that I was spraying in the video. If you look at the thighs, the highlights, you know, they're spread out. They're not as intense. On the back side, the back of the, I don't know, coat or vest, highlights are almost non-existent. You can see it in the straps. Everything's kind of faded out. That's the look that we're going for. Then that takes away from the plasticky feel and gives it a more natural type of feel. So that's the impact we're going for. That's it. Like I said, I'll put everything I use in the description below. So, you know, have fun. Somebody like Maul, when I spray him, I'm spraying skin, cloth. I'll leave his boots shiny. Stormtroopers, clones, stuff like that. I'll hit up the black portions of them, and that's where I'll focus all this doling spray at. Characters where you see their skin, I will focus on, like this Obi-Wan, his face. This works really well on Mace, because Mace is way too shiny, but I find like this doling spray, it just helps accentuate everything that's there and doesn't make them look like plastic. So I'll catch y'all in the next video that I have to reshoot.